Friends, thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Real Talk, where I get to have real life, raw conversations with incredible people from my circles and communities who have overcome challenges and created amazing. Today's guest is a powerhouse in the space where conflict, culture, and leadership collide. Dr. Jen Fry is a sports geographer, TEDx speaker, tech founder, and the force behind Jen Fry Talks, a firm helping teams turn tension into transformation. With over 15 years as a collegiate coach and over 200 speaking engagements, she's known for sparking the tough conversations most people avoid and doing it with depth, clarity, and purpose. She dropped the mic at the TEDx Duke, earned her PhD from Michigan State, and now she's turning heads with her upcoming book, I Said No, the no bullshit guide to setting boundaries, speaking up, and being unbothered by other people's feelings. Now, that's a book I'm going to read immediately. Please help me welcome Dr. Jen Fry to the show today.
Hey, Jen. Grace, that was such an amazing intro. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you. I love, we always have synergy when we connect and converse. I'm really excited to have you today. And your book, like, that's huge for someone like me who's a recovering people pleaser, who's had a hard time saying no and setting boundaries. So thank you so much for putting that out into the world.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because the people who know me now are kind of like, Jen, why would you need that book? And I think about, I write it for my friends, I write it for my younger self because, and I titled it, I Said No, because so many times that's such a scary thing for people to say. It's such a scary thing to say, I said no to going somewhere that they don't want to go, to not wait for somebody, right? Like all these things that we are conditioned to not say no for, to be able to say, I said no, and like, that's it, is really difficult for people. I just wanted to give them a practical guide to know that it's hard to say no, and there's ways that you can still start to learn how to do it in an effective way.
Thank you. It's scary. So when I first started my journey saying no, I still have a hard time saying no. It's a little bit easier, much easier. But was there ever a time in your life that you had a hard time saying no and you had to learn how to set those boundaries?
Oh my gosh, all the time. I think it comes, like most of us, when we don't want to hurt someone's feelings.
Right.
When we're like, well, I'll just go do the thing. I'll just go. I know that they're late to this event I want to go to, but I'll just wait for them. Like these things that we sit there and we should just be like, no, I'm actually not going to wait for you. I'm going to go because you're 30 minutes late. Right. And so for me, it really was this almost like coming to life of there were things that I was not saying no to that was making me really resentful and just a complete jerk. And that was the problem, is that I'm waiting for you to come to this event. You're 30 minutes late. I should just been like, Grace, I'm leaving. But instead I wait for you for those 30 minutes. And I'm sitting here raging inside. So now you pick me up. I'm pissed off. I'm not talking to you, or I'm upset. We go to the event. We don't have a good time because I'm so mad. And all of that could have been alleviated with me just being like, Grace, I understand you're on the way, but I'm leaving. And I'm sorry, you're going to be frustrated, but I have to go because I want to be on time. And learning that, like, I'm more important in that situation than someone who's on the way. I'm more important than waiting, right? I'm more important in that. And sometimes we forget that we deserve to be important in those moments.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love all of that, because you brought up a few different points. You brought up, okay, like I am waiting and I'm not saying no. However, that creates, resentment within me. Then I'm angry, and then we go and it's not fun.
Yeah.
And so it's like a it's like a loop of resentment.
100%. Because now you're mad because you missed out, if you're 30 minutes late to you wanted to go listen to some artist, right? And you end up being 30 minutes late. So you've missed the beginning 5 songs of the show. So now you're sitting there pissed off because you walk into the show and you're like, oh, they already started and they're 5 minutes in. You realize you've missed your favorite song. So now you're sitting there pissed off of what you missed because you were late. And like you said, it's this flywheel of just anger. And it's like, how do you get unmad when you're in the middle of an experience? Like, right. How do you?
Exactly. And I love, so there's so many layers here. It's like when we don't choose ourselves, because we're afraid to disappoint someone else. We're actually betraying ourselves.
Yes.
Which creates that, resentment that, we internalize it. So that's not really self-care, because we talk about self-care and
No.
sabotage. And then you mentioned
100%.
something else, which I love. You say, we get to stay grounded and unbothered by other people's emotions.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I grew up in an environment where like you had to worry about how other people felt.
Yes.
And so one of the most empowering things that I learned was how to stay neutral, or how to, be unbothered.
Yeah.
And once I learned that, it's been a game changer. But how can we stay unbothered? Like how do we get there?
So I think the first thing is we have to understand the umbrella of all of this. It takes skills, work, experiences, and screwing up. Like it takes all of that. I think the problem when we talk about setting boundaries is someone will set a boundary, someone will step over the boundary, and the person will be like, see, I tried to set a boundary and they didn't listen to me. And it's like, there are habitual line steppers in your life. There are people that you set a boundary, they jump. So there are people that will consistently do that. So you have to keep consistently putting up the boundary. And it takes work. And people are not used to the work that it takes. And I think for me, when I think about setting boundaries, self-advocating, all of that stuff, is that you have to be just prepared for the hardness of it. And so, when I think about your question of how to become unbothered, it's that you have to put in the experiences of it. You can read my book all you want. And then if you never put it into practice, it will never work. True. You have to learn that when you're in a certain situation, what does it feel like? What is the other person going to be like? I think about one of my good friends was having her 40th birthday party, and I ended up not being able to go. And I knew she was going to be upset with me. I knew it. And I accept, right? When someone wants you to be there, it's an act of love that they're disappointed that you can't be there. And so I was waiting, but I didn't want to wait till it was too late, because then it pisses you off. Then it gets to be the point of like, why did you wait 3 days before to say you're not coming? Like right. That's just, now you're being problematic. And so I told her, I said, I know you're going to be upset with me, and I understand it. Like, I get that you're going to be upset. And so we were able to have a beautiful conversation, because I wasn't showing up defensive, being like, I don't know why you're mad. I'm telling you, because they wanted you in this experience. And so I said, I get you're mad and frustrated, and we can talk about it furthermore. And probably about a day or two before the event, she said, I'm just going to be honest. I'm still upset about it. And I know you told me the truth. But she was like, I'm still just upset. And I said, I respect that. She's like, because I wanted you to be there. And I said, I appreciate the love you have for me. And so being unbothered in that moment, it's not this throwing away of someone's emotions and being like, Grace, you don't get to think like that. But it's being like, I get it, and I hold it, and I respect it, and I understand it. And we're still going to move through it. And that's what, for me, the unbotheredness of it is like, I'm not sitting here reacting to you being upset. I'm not being defensive because you're upset. I'm unbothered in the way of, I know this emotion is going to happen. How can I respect it? And we move through it.
I love that. And that is very similar to like being neutral. Yeah. And I had a similar experience. I forgot a girlfriend's birthday to call her, and it was a crazy time. And when I did call her and I left the message, I'm like, I'm really sorry. She didn't answer. She sent me a text, don't worry, but I could feel the energy was a little bit off. I said, I'd love to take you out to dinner Friday or Saturday. No, I'm busy. I said, can you let me know when you're free? And she just hearted it. So I know she's upset. However, like I know like she's upset, but I'll go back to her, but I wasn't, like you said, like angry, or I didn't take it personal. And I like you that you shared that. So I'll circle back around with her. And that's, and I love that, like unbothered, neutral, grounded, like we're not internalizing their response, but you also affirmed how she was feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. So I didn't say like, how can you be feeling that? I told you in advance. It wasn't about advance. It wasn't about money. It was that someone wanted to share a moment with me. And understanding that love, right? Like that's a big thing to me.
I love that. Well, you also got curious, and she's upset because she wants me there because she loves me, instead of like, what an asshole, I believe you don't understand. And so for me, that's a sign of emotional maturity. Like you've done the work.
Yes. Oh, let me tell you, baby, younger Jen Fry did not have that emotional maturity.
Neither did I.
Younger Jen Fry would have waited to the last minute, because I thought if I waited till the last minute, I wasn't going to hurt her feelings, right? Like, it's when you think about it, you're like, that's not a rational thought. And so many people make situations so much worse because they wait. A situation would be on a scale of 1 to 10 would be a 2. But instead you wait till the last minute, and now it's a 9, because not only are they mad you wait till the last minute, they have to potentially pay more for a single room or move rooms around. It changes all of the travel, and they're having now to stress out about stuff, all because you waited till last minute and you lied. Because most trips, it's not that 3 months out you talk about it, then the day of. No, you're talking about it consistently leading up. And so you essentially lied to them. I was like, yeah, girl, I'm so excited. I can't wait. And you're lying to them. And then at the last minute to drop the ball, well, now they're going to be way, way more angry than had you just been honest at the beginning.
I agree. And it's so hard for people to do. Like, I witness it all the time. Now,
yes,
I can't front. There's been, I worked really hard to get where I am today, because I was terrified of conflict.
Yeah.
Because I grew up in an environment where it was constantly chaos and getting yelled at. So I'm like, I don't want to get attacked. And so what would you share with someone who is that people pleaser and wants to begin to set boundaries, say no? What do we say to them?
So I would say, I don't like to say like I coined a term, because like other people have probably coined it, and I don't want to be that person. Like, I did this term and someone's like, baby, someone's been talking about that for 15 years, right? Like, I don't want to do that. So I need to do more research. But it's micro advocacy.
Oh, I like that.
So micro advocacy means that you're taking these small steps, because people tend to look at advocacy in very big steps. And micro advocacy is stuff like you're at a restaurant and they get your order wrong. The amount of people that would be like, yeah, I hate mashed potatoes, but it's not that bad. I'll just eat it, right? Or like a thing that they specifically asked they didn't want is in the food. And they're like, I don't want to make a big deal. I don't want to be that person. So micro advocacy is when you're just standing up for yourself, right?
Yes.
You go and get your nails done, and the woman paints your nails the wrong color. Some people were like, I don't want to make it a big deal. So they'll just have them paint a color that they didn't want. And then they're leaving with $80 nails that they don't want. And now they have to go get them fixed. Versus
they're pissed and resentful.
And they're pissed. Yes. Yeah. And the person could feel it, versus them just saying, like, I've done it before and it's awkward. And there have been times where I was at a salon and the job was bad. I'm sitting here like, bruh, this can't be the job you want me walking out with. And so I don't yell, I don't scream. I said, this nail polish job is really bad. You're going to have to take it off and start over. And if they come back with a comment, I say, I understand. We're not going to put another layer of polish. I need you to start over. I'll need your manager. And I just keep repeating that. And so it's not this thing of like, I get it, but if you do this thing, I am not going to pay. Like if you add, because sometimes they'll just throw another layer of nail polish on, and the nail polish is like 3 inches thick. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. So I'll just repeat it. I understand, but I'm going to need you to start over. And literally in this tone. And that's right. So micro advocacy is that you're doing small things that can be hard, but they don't have really big repercussions.
Yeah.
You saying I ordered fries instead of mashed potatoes is not in the grand scheme of stuff. It's not a big deal, but it's a little micro advocacy step. You saying I wanted color 592 versus 598 is not a big, but it's steps to see in the moment of advocating for yourself. How do you feel? What does it look like? What are the words are you using? What's the tone? Like all of those things. How high does your voice get? You get to kind of figure out yourself in that moment. And then you do it. You're like, oh my gosh, I got this small win. I stood up for myself.
Yes. And it's little reps. And it's funny because I want to share a story because you said French fries. So whenever we go to a restaurant, when because I love French fries, and I'm health conscious. So when I eat my French fries, I want those French fries to be hot and crispy. So when the
Yes.
French fries come and if they're a little cold, I want to send them back and get new fries. My husband's like, why do you do that? I'm like, if I am ordering French fries, I want them to be French fries, like hot.
Yes.
And so now he's learned, like, if they're not right, she's sending them back. And for him, it's embarrassing. For me, it's like, I want them the way I asked for them.
Yeah. So sometimes what you can maybe do is like, hey, I'm ordering fries. I just want to let you know if they're not hot and crispy, I will send them back.
Yeah.
Like I just want, I'm just going to set the stage so you know that when they come out, yep, just want to let you know. I don't usually order fries, but if they're not hot and crispy, I'm going to send them back.
I love that.
And, yeah. And so you can kind of preface it in that way, but those are small things. But what you just mentioned with your husband, that's the type of peer pressure we see on people to not advocate for themselves.
True.
Right. It makes me think about, I was at this restaurant and they had a happy hour. It was $30, all you can eat and drink. And I go to pay and the woman charges me $35. And I'm like, here's the website. It shows 30. And she's like, well, our computer only shows 35. But baby, I don't know what to tell you, but I'm not paying 35. And so I tell her, I said, okay, well, we'll wait for the manager to change it. Like, I'm not sitting here screaming. I just said, okay, we'll just wait. But I'm not, it's marked $30 everywhere else. Why would I pay 35? And why does your computer have it as 35? Like that doesn't make any sense. Nowhere else would you go and something says 30 or 20 on the website and you go to pay and they're like, actually it's 40.
Right.
I said, we're not doing that. And so I sit there and wait and I'm polite. And this woman sitting there is telling the waitress, oh my God, you're doing such an amazing job. You're doing so great. And I'm like, yeah, she is. We're not talking about that. But like, those are the small things that would stop people from advocating for themselves, because then they'll be like, you know what, it doesn't matter. I'm fine. Yeah. And that's how we see peer pressure amongst people to stop you from advocating for yourself, is they'll say these things that are they're not rude. They're just really under kind of passive aggressive to make you question, should you be advocating for yourself? And I'm like, girl, I'm gonna wait. But like, you don't get to charge me a different price. And this person who is like, yes, you're doing so good. You're trying to make it seem like I'm saying the waitress is doing bad. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the price in the computer needs to be changed.
And I love that. And also what came up for me, because I was thinking about, sometimes I'm that person, like I'll be with someone and they're advocating for themselves, like you said, but then I feel uncomfortable. And then as you were talking, I was thinking, about what you're saying, and it has nothing to do with the person advocating for themselves. It has to do with me and a story about me, because I don't like to be cheap. And so if someone says, well, this is, 45, but, I'll have to give them 50. And I'm like, okay, that's not about her advocating for herself. That's about me telling myself a story that I'm being cheap. And it's not. So I have to look at myself and, why am I feeling uncomfortable? That's my own story.
100%. And people don't reflect on that. They make the person who's advocating for themselves the problem, right? Like, so it's, oh gosh, why would you say something? And then they'll try and use the language, Grace, it's just $5.
Exactly.
Why are you making a big deal out of $5? Ma'am, I'll make a big deal out of 50 cents. Like, don't play with my money.
So that would be me. So I'm going to be totally transparent. That would be me. I'm like, it's okay. It's $5. Don't worry about it. Because for some reason, I have a limiting belief that I don't want to look cheap. But see the difference? It's not about looking cheap at all. It's about like, that was wrong. I'm advocating for myself. Ooh, that was a good one. Thank you, Dr. Jen.
Yeah. Like, I think it is like having that level of self-reflection about, like, you see a situation happening that you're not involved. Why do you need to feel the need to control it to make you feel comfortable?
Exactly.
Because that's what it is. This girl, man, I don't know her, but for some reason, the interaction of me saying I'm not going to pay a random price made her feel so uncomfortable that she needed to intercede to control it, to make her feel comfortable. And I'm like, ma'am, I'm going to sit here and wait. My train's not for another hour. I will wait for, and if because then what we tend to feel is like an anxiousness, especially if there's people behind us. Yes. I'm like, oh my gosh, the other people are behind us. I don't want to make them wait. That is totally me. This is the first time I'm like, okay, so I want to reflect on that and see what that's about. Like, not to bother people, not to be seen. So in saying no
and setting the boundaries, there are so many layers.
Yes,
And
100%.
we really need to look within ourselves
Yes.
and ask ourselves and lean into like, why am I uncomfortable?
Yes. What about this situation and you advocating for yourself makes me feel like I have to intercede? And we're not talking about someone who's being rude or just like that. People want to go to the end of the spectrum with that. And I tell people a bell curve is 96.3, right? The middle. We
Right.
need to stay in the middle of the bell curve. We're not talking about you cussing something, like none of that is what we're talking about. We're talking about someone saying they're advocating for themselves. What about it makes you feel uncomfortable that you have to stop it? And I think about, I mean, I was at dinner years ago with an acquaintance, and the way she was talking to the wait staff, I was like, oh no, we're not doing that. Like, we're not going to talk. Nope, not. And she got mad at me. Maybe I don't know what to say, but you can advocate for yourself, but you're not going to do it that way. And I will absolutely intercede in that. But if we're talking about someone who is being respectful in their tone, their words, their body language, that has nothing to do with me. And I think more people put themselves in the middle of situations that are not their business because they are uncomfortable with people advocating.
So they need to look within themselves.
Yeah.
Love it.
It's not your business.
It
Right?
is. It's not your business.
No, it's not. You sitting there saying this thing, and like literally, if there had been a line behind, I would have said, "Hey, y'all, I apologize, but the brunch that we all came for, they're charging 35 instead of 30, so I just want to make sure it's fixed."
Yeah.
Like, I'm looking for all of our pockets, but this is a problem that the management needs to fix. This is not me, but you're not going to make me leave because of the feeling of guilt or that I need to move fast.
Yes. Again, it all comes back to us, and you being able to advocate for yourself shows me that you have a solid sense of self, and that's what we want to get to. And for me, I learned like I had to have a solid sense of self, my self-worth, to learn to say no, learn to say the bigger no's, learning to set the boundaries, because if you respond in a certain way, I know that I'm still the person that I am. Just because you respond like that doesn't make me less of a person. But you have to really get grounded in who you are.
Yeah,
Be able to set
100%.
those boundaries, at least in my experience.
Yeah, and my mom, like I'm half black, half white. My mom, a white woman, she had 5 kids by the time she was 25. She didn't have time to deal with conflict, to set boundaries. So she didn't know how. And, one thing I will say that I tend to see with people is they sit with the idea sometimes that their parents could have done a better job raising. Like my parent, and I don't know anyone's situation, but I look at it through the lens of empathy of like, my mom had 5 kids by the time she was 25. Like, I can't even fathom doing that. I'm barely keeping a plant alive, barely. And then my cat loves to sleep in a box over here. Like, that's the bottom line of keeping things alive. And my mom had 5 kids. So the level of empathy I have of she didn't get to build the skill set to learn how to set boundaries and navigate. She didn't get to do that. And so I look back at my life of when she would say, Jen, she would have been the person Jen, just pay the $5. It doesn't matter. Because for her, she never had, right? She never been able to say like, no, we're going to wait. Like, she didn't build that skill. And so I look at that and say, how hard could that have been to not be able to advocate for yourself in times where you needed it? And do I think that there are things that she could have worked on? Absolutely. But I take a step back and look at the totality of the life that I was able to see and how hard it must have been, and to give her some grace and empathy because of how she had to navigate the world at that time.
Girl, thank you so much for sharing that. My mom also had 5 children, started having kids at the age of 18. And by the time mid-20s, she had 5 kids. My sister ended up getting, sick with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. My dad wasn't easy. And for many years, I blamed, my parents.
Yeah.
Till I knew better, until I realized like they were doing the best they could. Yes. And I love how you said like having empathy and grace and taking accountability for we're adults now.
Yes.
And yes, we respond from the child within us. Well, do the work.
100%. And one thing, so my mom had 5 kids by the time she was 25, and she adopted me at 41. And so it's funny now, I look back and I would think like 40s was so old. And now I'm like, I'm 45. I'm like, oh my gosh, she was so young when she adopted me. But like, I also don't think that some kids realize how tough they were to raise. Some kids were assholes.
Girl, I'm tired. I'm tired. I got 2 sons and they're amazing and I'm tired.
And but some kids, I'm like, y'all were hard to raise and they don't want to admit it. Like some of these kids, I'm like, baby, your parent, you held your parents hostage. Like they were negotiating with terrorists because of how you treated them. And they knew they couldn't do what they wanted to do. Like they did the best that they could given the circumstances. And there has to be an acknowledgement of like, yeah, I terrorized my mom. I have to admit I did. The kid that says no to everything, baby, you were hard to raise. You were hard to raise.
Hey man, you're a powerhouse and amazing. And that's, she was probably so proud of you. And I have friends who are like, oh my God, my kid. I'm like, that's good. You want them to be this way.
Yes.
Because they're going to be able to go out in the world and, advocate for themselves.
And they have to learn in a place that's safe, which should be the household.
Yes.
So instead of them,
huge.
Right? And instead of you taking them, popping at the mouth or saying no, have conversations about, I understand you're frustrated, but you're not going to talk to me in that way. Like, let's pause for a second and you can help them be better in those moments. And I think so many parents are raised with the do as I say, not as I do. You don't talk back to me. Don't be disrespectful. And you're not training them how to be better. And so now they've only had one way of managing conflict. And they'll sometimes, like me, I didn't have a way. So I went the complete opposite. And so we have to understand, like, if we're going to teach them, they have to have a training ground of some sort to learn to be better.
Yes, I love that. And I think I went the opposite because it was a little bit volatile and I didn't want to hurt anyone. And so then I went to just being quiet and not having a voice, which, put me in places, toxic relationships.
Yes.
Being an enabler. And I'm so grateful I'm where I'm at now because now I'm like, again, don't get me wrong. I still have gaps. I do need to I could always be better at setting boundaries, saying no. But I couldn't imagine living the way that I had been living at the young Grace because I really had no voice. I was afraid. And so, but it took time. I had to do the work and dig deep. And something, I love how this came up because people used to always call me, you're so nice. And I used to hate that because I thought like, okay, that means I'm weak. But you talk about there's a difference between kind and nice. What is that?
So, for me, I will never say I'm nice. Like, I don't say that. I say I'm a kind asshole because I try and be kind, but baby, sometimes I try. And I think the difference is that the term nice is really weaponized against women to control them in ways. Hey, don't say that. You gotta be nice. We like nice girls, right? Like they use that word in a very condescending term. That nice doesn't advocate for self. Now, nice doesn't push back. Nice doesn't say, hey, what you're saying is problematic. Nice people don't do that. They get run over in all these different ways. And there's an expectation if you're nice, like you're just going to be kind of quiet and you're just going to be there. To me, kind is different. Kind, if I'm kind, I'm going to hold you accountable. If I'm kind, I'm going to say, hey, what you said was problematic. Because to me, it's about we're all growing, we're all being held accountable. And I don't like when people use the word nice, it just in a way makes my skin crawl because it's not being used in a way that is deemed a redeeming quality. It's being used as a way to really silence people.
I get
it. Think about how parents use it, how we hear men always talk about that they're the nice guy. Like I just the nice part, it just is like it's played out.
I like that because I feel more empowered when I'm being kind. So look at it. So I also, before I even had awareness, I had some energy around the word nice, and it made me feel less than, or it made me feel, weak. And there's power in kindness.
Yes.
Huge power in kindness. And I want to ask you a question. So I mean, I recently got shamed by other women from, showing up in my masculine power, my energy. I own it and I'm okay with it because I'm both. I can be masculine and I can be feminine too. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. And so how can we, own that part of us, when we have someone else who has a different perspective, but while honoring their perspective and not putting ourselves down. Does that make sense?
Elaborate a little bit more.
Like I got shamed for providing an answer that they felt was too masculine for them.
So can you give me more context? What was the answer? What did they feel was masculine?
Okay, I have to go back. Like, how do you get to where you are? And I said, well, I had to, step back, get curious. I had to do the work within myself and, and own it, take accountability. And then, well, that's the masculine answer.
No, it's not. There's nothing. So what you're saying is accountability is masculine? Like self-reflection. I wish accountability was masculine. I wish self-reflection was masculine. I wish looking inside was masculine. Like that shit makes no sense. And I would be like, what does that even mean? Like, again, like how is self-reflection and accountability masculine? Like what makes that masculine?
Right. And starting with yourself.
Yeah.
Regardless of your gender, man or woman, like as a woman, I need to look within myself to take the next steps. And no,
that girl doesn't know what she's talking about. Like she just is using words that there's nothing, I think the problem is that like people try and attach masculine and feminine to random stuff. I mean, if like the things that people will be like, it's not masculine to get your nails done, or it's not masculine to eat seafood. Like they will attach femininity and masculinity to random stuff in this binary. And it's like, girl, stop like that.
I used to feel ashamed about being, who I am because, like yourself, I'm also a powerhouse and I'm a goer and a pusher and an achiever. And my mom used to tell me no one's ever going to want you because you're too independent. And, I used to feel so much shame around that. And now I'm so grateful for that quality because although there is a lot of beauty and kindness in this world, you got to be that little Grace Redmond, that little Jen Fry, and have, push through it. Create that momentum, have the voice, set the boundaries, because if you don't, you will be eaten up.
100%. Whenever, right now we're seeing this kind of men who are like, no one wants you because you're independent. You'll be a cat lady. Okay, and like my cat Pickle is living his best life in this box. Like I am okay with being independent. And I think the problem is that when people think of independence, they're thinking of being lonely. So if they are independent, they feel like they will be lonely. And that's just completely incorrect. Lonely and independent are not the same thing. And that's why I see a lot of men of like, you're just going to be alone. I'll never be alone. I got too many people that got my location. Like if I will be in New York, and my friends like, why are you in New York? Like I have people look out for me. So that idea of being lonely, I'm never worried about that. And I think people are putting their own stuff when they say that. And I see a lot of men who will do that, put that on women to get them just to be in relationships. Well, if you do that, no one will marry you. Okay, good. Like you're not worrying me if people won't marry me because I'm independent. I am okay with that. And I think, but like you said, life is hard. And if you do not have you do not have some straining of your back, you will be eaten alive. You will be put in really problematic situations that can be harmful and potentially deadly. And when people talk about people pleasing, I really try and make sure that folks understand that is that if you are a people pleaser, you will be put in deadly situations. And what do I mean? And people will be like, oh, you're being hyperbolic. No, I'm not. Because what happens is you're in a situation and it's going bad, violence, a guy pushing you, whatever it is. And instead of being like, I need to leave, you're like, well, I don't want to upset them, so I'll just stay. And all your spidey sensors is on 15,000, but you're so worried about this person being upset with you that you're not acknowledging you are in a deadly and unsafe situation. And so that's why it's like, baby, people pleasing, you got to have a stiffening of a back, because you will be in positions that are harmful. And if you don't know how to say no, it can mean your life.
For sure. And that was me at 19 years old. On the sidewalk, just got hit by, the boy that I was with. And for me, it was, eventually became people pleasing, but it was a lack of self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of these pieces, that we talk about are all connected.
Yep. They absolutely are. 100%.
All of it, saying no, setting the boundaries, having the voice, comes back to we need to cultivate a deep sense of self-worth.
Yep.
Period. Mm-hmm. And I had another one of those women say, well, what if there was a man in front of you and he told you you were not good enough? I'm like, I don't care if it's a man or woman or an elephant standing in front of me. I'm a child of the Most High God. I know who I am. Thank God, finally, 54 years later. And it doesn't matter who's standing in front of me. I know who I am. Are you going to be offended? I'm not going to be offended.
There was a quote I heard someone say, no one doing better than you is going to say something like that.
8 to the men.
Like, no one who's making billions is going to say that. The people who aren't doing as good as you are going to say that. That's why I'm like, you think I'm going to listen to someone tell me something? Man, please. If someone front, tell me I'm not good enough, baby. You telling the wrong. I know you're not doing well then. You need to go save your pennies if you're telling me that, because no one making millions is going to tell me that. No.
Word. And I feel so blessed to have you as a sister, as a friend, to have this conversation. And there's so much. I want to be respectful of your time, but something that I want to kind of circle back to. Growing up, did you see yourself being like a very successful collegiate coach, award-winning speaker, consultant, having a high-tech company? I mean, you're really just blew it out of the water. Is that what you saw yourself doing when you're
never? Never. I would have never envisioned. So I was never a person who had goals. Never. I know people who be like, I'm going to law school. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be a teacher. I never had any of those goals at all. And so for me, I didn't know what I wanted to do in life. I got into coaching and I fell in love with it because I was like, oh, this is a way for me to help young women. Like, I love that. And then it got to be a point of like, okay, I'm starting to feel resentful. I don't want to do this anymore. And then I stumbled into being a speaker. Literally, I was helping Colin Kaepernick kneel. All of my friends were like, what do we do? How do we handle it? And so I just was like, okay, I'm just going to try this out. And I ended up being really good at it. Also, because I looked at it as a skill. I'm not sure about you, Grace, but the amount of people that come up to me, they're like, how do I become a speaker and get paid? Baby, you're not good. Like, you're not, you speaking to your church of 30 people, baby, that's not the same as commanding 500 people. It's not the same. And so for me, I just found out I'm really good at it and enjoy it. And so fell into that, felt like I left coaching. And at that point, I was at Duke for 3 years and I was starting to speak and it was starting to kind of gain some traction. And then I had 2 masters and my friend literally said, she was like, you have 2 masters, you can't get a third, you have to get a PhD. And I was like, okay. And so I, from that point, looked at programs and I literally said, okay, I'm going to go start this PhD program. And if speaking doesn't do well, at least I can fall back on my little stipend and hustle and do lessons and all that. And so I just fell into it and being really good. And then same thing with tech. I wanted to solve a problem. I didn't know what the tech world was. And now I'm in it. I'm like, baby, we got to continue this. Like, I'm too deep in it. And so I say that where I'm at now, I would have never thought that I would be anywhere in this. Like, I couldn't even envision what this would look like. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't have envisioned any of it. And I think that's what's the craziest but most exciting part.
I love that. And we have to bring you back and talk about that, like how you went from not envisioning, not having the goals to being where you are today. I think that's a whole other podcast.
Yes, we have to come back, Grace. This has been, the time has went so fast, but this has been awesome.
I know it's been so fast. So please, that means we're having fun. So
yes,
please share with our audience where they can find you and your book.
Oh my gosh, audience. So you can find me at Jen Fry Talks at all social media, JENFRY Talks, at LinkedIn, Instagram, any social media you have. I'm going to be on there. You can find my book if you go to Jen Fry Talks, anything. I have links to it, but my website, jenfrytalks.com, is a link that you can pre-order. We are pre-selling up till August 1st when it goes live. And inside of it, it has reflection questions. It is a great little thing. Go and pre-order it. We have it Amazon pre-order for Kindle for $9.99, and then Barnes & Noble pre-order for EPUB $9.99, and the paperback for $14.99. So we tried to keep it well priced, so it didn't feel like it was too heavy of a lift.
Yeah, no, I can't wait to get it. We will share all of that here. And those are listening, watching, please like, subscribe, and share so we can still bring you incredible guests like Dr. Jen Fry. And if you have any questions, put them in. Jen and I will definitely come back to those. Till next time, thank you so much for joining us. God bless.